call on our guest speaker, let's recognize the presence of Captain Priye and the LTT team. Let's put our hands together for them. If you can. Thank you very much. Masa. Let's put our hands together for them as well. Let's also acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Orakusi. She's right there. And in the same vein, let's put our hands together for Mrs. Chinwe Ezenwa. Now I call on stage Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole. She is the Vice President, Commonwealth Business Women Network. She is also the Managing Director, CEO, Ngozi Limited. And Ngozi Limited are into the manufacturing and supplies of complete office furniture. She is a certified health and safety professional. She holds a degree in business administration. In 2015, she was recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the leading women entrepreneurs in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mrs. Ngozi Oyewole.
Thank you so much. When you hear such big, you're like, this person coming out is going to be so tall and huge, and then this little somebody just saunters out. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. I'm going to actually, I was told I'll be speaking and I heard lecture and I had question and answer. And my sister has a way of roping me in. But I'd like to say good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And I thank you, my sister, Honorable Lightsour Williams, who found me appropriate to be a guest speaker at the annual Educators and Maritime Stakeholders Lecture and Awards. The term blue economy is basically the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs while preserving the health of ocean ecosystems. In other words, it's simply looking into the ocean and finding new possibilities and opportunities that can better the livelihood of those living around it and constitute more than 95% of the biosphere. Of course, life originated in the oceans and they continue to support all life today by generating oxygen, absorbing carbon dioxide, recycling nutrients, and regulating global climate temperature. The blue economy includes established ocean industries such as fisheries, tourism, and marine transport, as well as new and emerging activities such as offshore renewable energy and aquaculture. Aquaculture is also said to be the fastest growing food sector and provides about 50% of fish for human consumption. Healthy oceans are essential for global food security, livelihoods, and economic growth. More than ever, it has become relevant for us to look towards our inland waters, not only for food security, but also a pathway for connectivity, innovation, trade, and nature-based solutions for the various challenges that the climate crisis has thrown our communities into. The other day, I listened to one of the remarks made by Ambassador Joseph Sako. She's the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment at the African Union Commission during the Women in Blue Economy workshop that took place on the 16th to the 17th of June this year in Abuja. She pointed out that in the fisheries sector, women play an important role in post-harvest aspects of the seafood value chain, including processing, marketing, and selling seafood. But we all know what it is. Very often this contribution goes unseen as it is done on a subsistent scale in the informal economy, or it is even undervalued. It's obvious that women remain excluded from the higher levels of decision making around fisheries. The future we want for our women and girls is for members of the international communities, government, local government, the private sector to contribute to decent work for all and job creation for both women and men, and particularly the youth, including through partnerships with small and medium enterprises as well as cooperatives. These objectives require policies that create incentives for producers and consumers to adopt sustainable practices and behavior in which women would play a very, very vital role. The United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, offer a unique, transformative, and integrative approach to shift the world onto a sustainable and resilient path that leaves no one behind. Food and agriculture are key to achieving the entire set of SDGs, and many SDGs are directly relevant to fisheries and aquaculture. In particular, SDG 14, conserve and sustainably use the seas, oceans, and marine resources for sustainable development. Coastal countries like us need to position themselves in terms of facilities and capacities to cater for growing trade and optimize their benefits. We appreciate the inauguration in January 17th of the expanded Committee on Sustainable Blue Economy in Nigeria. By the federal government, as this is to say that oil and gas is not the say-it-all in the growth of any economy, but buried under the waters, oceans, rivers, lakes, and creeks are numerous resources Nigeria is endowed with and holds more than has been discovered and is being utilized. We know the ESBEN is to provide an assessment of the current realities, opportunities, and challenges for economic diversification and the growth of a sustainable blue economy in Nigeria. Also to identify, review relevant policies and institutional capacity building mechanisms for blue economy development in Nigeria. It's also to identify regional, cross-border partnerships, collaborations necessary for implementations of the blue economy. And also their plan is to identify relevant sectors, actors, and linkages and develop a national action plan with implementation strategy for the development of the Nigeria blue economy. In our quest to close the gender gap, we hope that at the commencement of this project, women will be given the opportunity to be part of the policy-making agents driving this initiative. It is noteworthy to mention that oceans are important carbon sinks. That is, they absorb more carbon from the atmosphere than they release. Hence, as humanity struggles to return to Earth, to its usual balance, the oceans need to be preserved in order to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that goes into the atmosphere, resulting in increased heat in the environment. I urge us all to strengthen the relevant institutions for the development and prosperity of a blue economy. We know the challenges that the blue economy is faced with. The lack of reliable data is actually a major issue. This is the time for policymakers to understand the concept of blue economy and embrace it as it is being done in other parts of the world. Nigeria has what it takes to operationalize the blue economy and make it work for enhanced economic growth. It is evident that the absence of a strategic maritime economic blueprint, flawed institutional framework, maritime insecurity, as well as withheld cabotage vessel financing fund are the bane of the maritime economy. We have to adopt changes required to foster a blue economy and be more inclusive in our strategy, where women will provide the shock absorbers to the global population that needs to survive. Thank you very much. And to add, don't clap yet, hold it there. To add, I'd like to acknowledge what Ocean Ambassadors Foundation has done. As a very strong woman advocate, when I was introduced, I prefer to say that I'm a voice for the girl child and for the women. They say when you bring up a girl child, what happens? You actually train a nation. Thank you very much. And today, Ocean Ambassadors has done very well, catching them very young and breeding them and building them up to understand that truly, like we said earlier, everything is not about being a lawyer, being a doctor. You can be all that even within the maritime sector. Everything happens within the maritime sector also. You can be a maritime engineer, a maritime lawyer. I've got my big auntie sitting right in front of me. She's a lawyer and she understands. Of course, auntie, you know it's who I'm talking about, Mrs. Orepisi. She said, and we also have women who have thrived very well in the industry. And I'm very glad, I'm very happy that I found myself today watching on the screen all that he's done for the girl child. Thank you very much. And I'm standing here open to questions if you have any. Okay, now you can clap. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. That will be appropriate. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Now, for those that have questions, let's have your questions now. I'll just